The problem is that you genuinely do not know. Not as performance, not as the practiced, socially acceptable modesty that people deploy when they want to appear humble about something they privately understand quite well. You actually, structurally, in the complete and honest interior of your own self assessment, do not fully register what you are doing to people when you walk into a room. And that not knowing is the thing that is making people absolutely feral about you. Let me explain. There is a specific quality that belongs to people who are unaware of their own effect. It is not the same quality as people who are aware and performing unawareness. That combination always has a slight self consciousness to it, a tiny tell, a fraction of performance that exists in the gap between the awareness and the display of not knowing. People who actually do not know what they are doing look different. They move differently. They take up space differently. They exist in a room without the subtle, constant monitoring of how the room is receiving them that characterizes people who know they are being watched and are adjusting for it. You exist in rooms like you forgot the room was there, not because you are inattentive. You are one of the most perceptive people in every room you enter, but your perception is directed outward at the room, at the people, at what is actually happening in the dynamics between them, rather than inward at yourself, at how you are landing, at whether what you are producing in the people around you is what you intended to produce. You are not monitoring your own effect. And the effect, unmonitored, unperformed, running entirely on its own without your management or your awareness or your permission, is considerable. The people who have been on the receiving end of it are not okay. Let me begin with the physical, because this reading is going to go somewhere deeper than the surface, but I am not going to skip the surface to get there because the surface is real and it is part of what is producing what I need to tell you about. And it deserves to be spoken honestly rather than decorated into something abstract. You are physically striking in a way that does not resolve quickly. What I mean by that is this: most attractive people produce a reaction that has a natural arc. The initial response, the processing of that response, the arrival at a kind of settled appreciation that allows the other person to continue functioning without the first impact continuing to disrupt them. The arc completes, things normalize. The attractive person becomes, to the people around them, simply a fact of the landscape, appreciated but no longer destabilizing. Your arc does not complete. Something about the specific combination you present, and it is a combination, not a single feature, not the conventional metric that people reach for first when they try to describe why someone is attractive, does not resolve into comfortable familiarity the way most things do. Each time someone is in your presence, they seem to go through a version of the first response, as though the familiarity has not built up in the way familiarity usually builds up, as though the specific quality of you is somehow resistant to being absorbed into the background of someone's experience of you. You remain foreground every time, and the people for whom you are perpetually foreground are developing a relationship with that experience that has grown considerably past the simple appreciation of an attractive person. It has moved into something that they cannot locate the edge of, something that does not have a natural point of saturation, something that produces in them the specific wanting more quality that the word insatiable was invented to describe. They cannot get enough of you. Not as hyperbole, uh, as a description of an actual experience they are having that they find both wonderful and slightly destabilizing. They cannot get enough of you. Not as hyperbole, uh, as a description of an actual experience they are having that they find both wonderful and slightly destabilizing. Let me speak to what happens when people are around you repeatedly, because the effect does not behave the way effects are supposed to behave with repeated exposure. Most things diminish. That is the ordinary mechanics of familiarity. The first time you hear a song, if it is good, it produces a response. The 20th time you hear it, the response is smaller. The 100th time, it has become background. The brain adapts. The brain is extraordinarily good at adapting. It reclassifies the novel as familiar, the striking as ordinary, the exceptional as expected. It does this automatically and without consent because adaptation is how the brain manages the cost of paying full attention to everything in its environment. With you, something in this process is misfiring, or rather functioning correctly but producing an outcome that nobody in the vicinity expected, because the adaptation keeps encountering something it cannot fully absorb. The brain keeps reaching for the familiar and therefore reducible category and finding that you do not fit inside it. Not because you are inconsistent, you are, as we have established in another reading, one of the most consistent people in any room. But because the thing the brain is trying to reduce to background is not one dimensional enough to successfully reduce, every time they are around you, they encounter a slightly different angle of the same thing. Not a different you, the same you, but the same you has enough dimension that each encounter reveals more of it, and more, in this case, does not produce the diminishing returns that more usually produces. It produces the opposite, an expanding awareness of the scope of what they are dealing with, a growing understanding that the thing they initially responded to was only the visible surface of something that goes considerably further back. The familiarity is deepening the effect instead of reducing it. They did not expect this. They are not sure what to do with it. They are doing nothing with it, except continuing to want more exposure to the thing that keeps surprising them with its depth. What is the combination? Because I said it is not a single thing, and I want to be specific about what the elements are. What comes together in you that produces this particular sustained, does not resolve quality of effect? The first element is contrast. You contain things that most people carry separately: the warmth and the edge, the softness and the precision, the approachable surface and the serious depth immediately underneath it. And the contrast between these things, the fact that you move between them not in stages but simultaneously, so that both are present at once in the specific integrated way of someone who has not had to choose between them, creates something that is impossible to fully see from any single angle. Every interaction reveals a slightly different facet, and every revealed facet makes the observer aware that there are more facets they have not yet seen. So the more they are around you, the more aware they become of how much of you exists that they have not encountered yet. The familiarity produces not satiation, but the opposite, an expanding awareness of how much remains. The second element is the quality of your attention. When you direct your attention at someone, the experience of receiving it is specific. It does not feel like the general, distributed, partially elsewhere quality of most people's attention in social situations. It feels located, real, present in a way that makes the person receiving it feel for the duration of it like the thing your awareness has chosen as its actual subject rather than its polite subject. Being the actual subject of your attention is addictive because it is real, and real things produce real responses, and real responses become things people want to repeat. The person who has had your actual attention knows through direct experience the difference between that and the performed attention they receive from most people, and the knowledge of the difference makes the absence of yours in the moments when it is directed elsewhere feel like the specific lack of something they now know they need. The third element is the one nobody talks about but everybody feels. Your presence has a physical register. Not the obvious visual kind, though, that is present as established, a more specific quality, something in how you inhabit your own body. The specific ease of someone who is neither performing their physicality nor suppressing it, who moves through space without the self consciousness that makes most people's physical presence slightly contracted, slightly apologetic, slightly less than the full space they are entitled to occupy. You take up your space completely without negotiating with the room about whether you are allowed to, without the subtle diminishing that people do when they are not sure their presence is welcome. You arrive and you are there, all of you, at the full voltage of your own existence, and the room reorganizes around it because rooms always reorganize around things that are actually present rather than partially present. That full voltage presence is the thing that does not resolve. That is what they cannot get enough of. I want to speak to a specific person now, the one whose relationship to all of this has moved past the general response into something more particular. They have tried to describe you to someone recently in a conversation with someone they trust enough to say the actual thing rather than the managed version of it. They tried to explain what it is about you that has produced this specific, sustained, cannot locate the edge quality in them. Tried to put into language the experience of encountering you regularly and finding that regularity has not reduced the impact the way regularity is supposed to. The description came out incomplete, not because they lacked the capacity for it, because what they were trying to describe does not compress into language without losing something essential. The specific thing about you that has gotten all the way under their skin and refused to come out is not a thing that language was built to carry at the precise frequency at which they are experiencing it. So the person they told nodded, said something understanding, maybe said something like, they sound incredible, or I can see why you feel that way. And they felt immediately that the other person did not have the full picture, because the full picture requires being in the room with you, which is the specific, slightly maddening quality of what you produce in people that the experience of you cannot be adequately secondhand, cannot be transmitted through description, can only be had directly, which means the only way to resolve the wanting is to have more access to the actual thing, which increases the exposure, which deepens the effect, which increases the wanting, which you see the problem. They are in a loop that has your name on it and no obvious exit. Let me tell you what a day looks like for this person. Morning, before the day has required anything of them. In the specific openness of early consciousness, before the structure of the day has imposed itself on the available space of their attention, you appear, not dramatically, simply as the thing that is present when nothing else is yet required. They think about the last time they saw you, not the whole interaction, a detail, something specific that their memory has been holding on to without being instructed to. The way you said something, the way you moved, the way you looked when you were not performing anything, not laughing, not speaking, not directing your attention at anyone specific, just existing in whatever form existing takes for you in the moments between the active moments, the existing. That is what they keep returning to. Not the performance of you, the fact of you. They get up, the day starts. They carry this in the way people carry things that are not yet resolved below the surface of the required attention, available to surface when the required attention relaxes its grip. It surfaces regularly, at work, in transit, in the middle of conversations about things that have nothing to do with you. The mind produces you uninvited with a frequency that this person has stopped finding surprising and started finding simply characteristic of what their days are like now. Days that contain you as a constant, even when you are not in them. Something I need to say here that the reading has been building toward. The not knowing is protection. For you specifically, the fact that you do not monitor your own effect means you cannot perform for it, cannot calibrate your behavior toward producing more of what you see people responding to, cannot develop the specific, subtle, eventually detectable inauthenticity that develops in people who become aware of their effect and start managing it. You remain genuine. And genuine in someone who produces the effect you produce is the rarest and most powerful combination available because people can feel the difference, even when they cannot name it. Even when they have not consciously identified what separates you from the people who produce a similar surface level impression but do not produce the same depth of response, the body knows, the gut registers. This is real. And the reality of it, the specific, unperformed, would exist even if you were trying to hide it reality is the thing producing the insatiable quality in the people around you. They want more of what is actually there. And what is actually there does not run out because it is not a performance. Performances exhaust, genuine things sustain. Let me speak to what they want specifically, not abstractly. Not in the general more time with you sense, but in the granular, specific, this is what occupies their wanting sense. They want ordinary access to you. That is the want underneath the want. Not the special occasion version of you, not the version of you that exists in contexts that have a particular energy or significance. The Tuesday version, the version that exists in the unimportant moments, the transitions between the important ones, the spaces in a shared life where nothing is required and what is present is simply what is present. They want to be in the room when you are not performing anything. When you are thinking about something and have not yet decided what you think, when you are comfortable enough that the composure is optional and you have let it be optional, when the full voltage presence is running not for anyone's benefit, but simply because that is your natural state and the room you are in at that moment is the room that gets to have it. They want the Tuesday morning version of someone they currently only get in curated configurations. And the wanting of that, the wanting of the ordinary, the domestic, the unspectacular, tells you more about the depth of what they feel than any of the obvious responses you have been receiving. Because people want the ordinary version of people they love. People want the daily access to people who have become essential. You have become essential. To someone who did not plan for you to become essential and cannot now imagine the absence of you without a specific physical, this is not abstract discomfort. They want the Tuesday morning version of someone they currently only get in curated configurations. And the wanting of that, the wanting of the ordinary, the domestic, the unspectacular, tells you more about the depth of what they feel than any of the obvious responses you have been receiving. Because people want the ordinary version of people they love. People want the daily access to people who have become essential. You have become essential. To someone who did not plan for you to become essential and cannot now imagine the absence of you without a specific physical, this is not abstract discomfort. And the people around this person can see what is happening. They have been watching the effect you have for long enough to have formed a collective, unspoken understanding of what is going on. The way this person mentions you in conversations where your name is not necessary, the quality of their attention when something adjacent to you enters the room, a shared acquaintance, a song you both like, a place associated with you, anything that carries your signature through the space without you being physically present. Their face does something. The people around them have learned to recognize it, not as something dramatic or obvious, as the specific, small, entirely involuntary version of someone whose interior life just received a signal and responded to it before the exterior had time to manage the response. A warming, a lighting, a fraction of a second of pure, unguarded presence before the usual composure reassembles. They cannot control it. They do not know they are doing it, which means they do not know that everyone around them knows exactly what the warmth is about. You are the open secret in their life, too. Everyone in their world can see what they cannot keep off their face. And what they cannot keep off their face is the specific, uncontainable, all the time quality of someone who is completely gone on another person. They are completely gone on you. You have no idea. I want to return to where we started because I think it bears returning to now that the full picture has been delivered. You have no idea what you are. Not in the self-deprecating, I am nothing special way that minimizes genuine quality. In the honest, structurally accurate, this is simply true way of someone whose perception of themselves does not match the perception of the people around them, who sees themselves in ordinary resolution while being experienced by others in something considerably higher. The gap between how you see yourself and how you are experienced is significant. And bridging it, letting in, even partially, even tentatively, even in the measured way that honest self knowledge arrives, rather than the dramatic way people imagine it arriving, is going to change something for you, not your behavior, not the things you do or the way you move through the world. Those are already producing the effect without your awareness or your management. But your relationship to receiving what you produce, to letting it land when people tell you, to not immediately rerouting the compliment away from yourself through deflection or qualification, to allowing the experience of being seen clearly by someone who cannot stop looking to be received in full rather than at a fraction of the volume. The people who cannot get enough of you are telling you something true about yourself. Consider letting it be true. Consider sitting with what it means that multiple people, independently, without coordination, are all navigating the same experience of encountering you and finding the encounter one they cannot adequately process from. You are that to them. All of it. Too hot to handle. Not enough of you available to satisfy. And entirely, completely, 100% unaware of any of it. Which is, as we established, the whole reason